Apex. It's an oldie but a goodie. So much so, two brands actually had the name of it.
Yeah.
But we're going to check out the brand new Apex line from Callaway for 2021.
AI. Yeah, Apex 21, newest stuff coming out of Callaway. They have done some pretty big tech advances and jumps in this run, this series of irons. So we're gonna dive into it, give you all the ins and outs, and then we're going to, because they have the three irons, the Pro, which is kind of your scratch,
right,
the Apex, which is your middle of the road, and then you also have the DCB, which is the deep cavity back. They're like big game improvement irons. So.
And real quick, I wasn't joking. Apex was actually an old Ben Hogan line. Callaway bought the Ben Hogan company. Whoa, what was that, a long time ago?
A little bit.
Mainly for the name Apex. And then Ben Hogan went away, came back. If you notice now, they don't name anything Apex because Callaway technically owns the rights to that name. And yeah, these have been some of the best irons out there.
Top sellers for a long time.
A decade or so now.
Yeah, really good. And they've, like we said, we're going to dive into some of the tech specs on it, but they've jumped into the AI game in the Apex lines now, where they haven't been AI. They went AI with the Mavericks.
I was about to say.
But they have not gone AI into the Apex.
So the Epic Flash was the very first AI designed face, if you remember that. We'll try and find a picture of the back of one of those faces. There's like lumps and stuff everywhere on the back. And what they did is they let a computer say, hey, if you want to get max speed out of this thing and forgiveness, this is what you got to do. Because at least computers are smarter than me.
A lot faster.
Yeah, that too. So they've essentially, this is the first year they've taken that same face technology with the AI stuff and brought it into the irons, which
into the Apex line, yeah.
Very curious to see how that plays out.
Cool. So yeah, so we got the Apex Pro. Like we were saying, it's the first one in the Apex line they came out with the AI face. Big thing here is it is forged. All of the Apex line all have a forged body. This is a hollow-bodied forged iron, and then one of your big differences here is in the Apex Pro, they have 90 grams of tungsten in it, and so that's the most they've ever put into an Apex iron. With that, it's helping improve launch characteristics and forgiveness, and then also this does have the cup face with it, and they've set it up to improve, obviously ball speeds, but then also improve spin. And whenever you look at just the profile of the club, it's going to be the thinnest top line and the thinnest sole and the smallest face in the Apex line. So then next up, we have the middle of the road with the Apex. Same thing, AI, we've got cup face on it. They do have tungsten in this one. They've dropped down the weight a little bit, so it doesn't have as much, but it does have 5 times more tungsten than the Apex 19s. And then last we have the Apex DCB, which is their deep cavity back. This is going to be their fat soled, most game improvement. They have 50 grams of tungsten in this one. These are going to be helping with your launch and distance. So okay.
All right, which club you got first there,
Aaron? Bang, got the Pro. Apex Pro.
So this would be the more performance side. It's going to be the least forgiving of all of them.
So they have it on their website. They have it broke down by like handicaps and that stuff, and they're saying a +5 to a 5. So a low single-digit handicap. This is what you're looking for.
So it looks like a blade. I believe it is still slightly hollow inside, if I remember.
Correct.
That so it's not quite an Apex MB, which is their true forged solid piece of metal blade. So you're going to get. This is like the next best thing. It's not quite what like a PXG or a Honda TWX.
No, it's not. It's not a fat hollow body.
P790s.
Yeah, it's not that. It just is hollow in there.
It's like the in between of all of these things. It's not a blade, but it's also not one of those. So it's like a blade with a bunch of technology jammed in the backside of it.
Correct. It has a brushed satin look to it. Nothing crazy shiny. No chrome. I like to say satin.
Yeah, brushed nickel has been a popular one. Another thing that Callaway's doing that's pretty cool is because they built these irons to be kind of interchangeable on a set. So you could go low side in these and then throw some of the traditional Apexes in on the high side, maybe even a DCB on the high side if you wanted to. But we're not going to talk to lofts, which normally we would on irons, and talk about what their stock lofts is, knowing that you can bend them and have them changed a little bit. Because they've got how many different makeups?
They have 4 different combo sets that you can get. You can get the, you know what, and I'm not going to misquote it. I'm going to tell you exactly what they are.
Oh, look at you.
Look at here.
Your fancy paper.
Got this here. So you've got your player. Your player is going to be like the Apex MB combined with the Pro.
Yep.
And then next one up, you got the mixed, and that's going to be the Pro combined with the Apex. Then you have the sweet spot, which is the Apex combined with the DCB, and you have the triple play, and that is your Pro, your Apex, and your DCB. You can get all of your fresh flavors in one.
Obviously, when you start mixing matching irons and their stock lofts, then you can start to really kind of mess with some distance gapping stuff. And so that's a pre-designed pack, if you may.
Yeah,
that they've tried to take those lofts into consideration in your distance gapping. Cool. Hit it.
Let her rip.
The sound of the club sounds absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it feels really good. You definitely feel it a little bit when you miss it, but it's not like a clunky something. But I think because of that AI in there that it's still.
Well, if you toe or heel a blade, especially if it's a little chilly outside or something, you know you did it. Like you feel it in your elbow. But this doesn't sound, you're right, it sounds clanky almost, toe to heel on a blade. This doesn't have that same sound.
I love it. Nobody cares what I think, but I love it.
It does look good. And, you know, I will say I don't necessarily love much for me to play. I don't love stuff outside of the Blade CB line traditionally. That's just what I've grown up with. It's what I'm comfortable with. It's what I'm used to. But this is probably one of the skinnier top lines of something that's not a true blade I've ever seen. Yeah,
it is. It's thin on the top, thin sole. It looks and feels good. I mean, if you're looking for that type of a player iron, it's got a little forgiveness to it. Along with it, it's a 95 stiff Elevate. That's their stock steel.
Oh,
obviously you can.
So that's a good. I thinned the ever living crap out of that one, and I actually carried it further than the first one. So I think that's where some of that AI technology is going to start to play a factor. Is I mishit it. My right hand was off of it somewhere right in here, and I still obviously got away with a shot. It didn't spin anywhere near as much.
Yeah.
So that would have hurt me if I was hitting it into a green. It probably could have rolled off the back, but it didn't fluctuate off the line. I only had 3 feet left on the curve. I mean, the height was it was probably about standard. That's probably the most impressive thing. The height still got up there when I thinned it. Because when I say I thinned it, I low grooved that.
Well, yeah, and like I said, there's 90 grams of tungsten in the bottom of that.
Right, that's going to help those shots get up in the air more. That was probably a little heavy. And again, it's still...
Yeah, shot shape and forgiveness is there.
Right there. So this is the standard
Apex. So it is same kind of deal like we're saying, that kind of whatever, brushed aluminum satin. It's a little more chromy on the back.
Yep, obviously going to have more of the cavity on this one, a lot more technology looking stuff into it.
Thicker top, a little more offset, but lofts aren't too crazy. So that one we didn't get into it, but that one was at like what did I say, 33?
33.
I think so. 34 is kind of like your standard.
We were joking, industry standard somewhere between 34 and 24 now.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's really hard to say there's an industry standard anymore.
Yeah.
Which is where I would tell you from the standpoint of, if you're curious about your lofts and lies, just understand what they all mean and get your clubs checked. Because there's such a variance now. You know, you go back 15 years ago and every 7-iron was 34 degrees.
Yep.
And you're still going to find that true in a lot of the blades, but not so much on anything else.
Now your tour standard golf clubs or whatever player, they're all pretty much the same.
Well, and you start talking about it, honestly, if they're having a distance gapping problem, they're probably the world's first. I would much rather just bend my golf club a little bit than ever try to swing a little harder or do anything else. Oh, yeah. And when you've got a tour van sitting 30 feet from your driving range, why not?
Yeah.
Your dispersion's a little less.
Yeah, it's I'll say for that, just as far as like feel, like across the face, it pretty much feels the same. So like not really getting a whole lot of feedback on misses, kind of where they are. The solid strikes, it feels good. It feels good. It feels kind of hollow to me a little bit. Which
it does, but that's going to be that.
It is, because there is a cavity back there. And that,
right, there is more of that, you know, hollow bodiness to it now with the cavity. Oh, that was heavy.
But it still goes straight.
See, I think that's the big thing is when you're looking for an iron like this, the same person that's probably buying the Apex Pro is not necessarily looking for the traditional Apex. There's I think that there's not a big difference between the Apex and the Apex DCB, but there's a massive difference between the Apex and the Apex Pro.
Yes, huge, like it's, yeah, wildly different top lines, sole thickness, all that kind of stuff.
I think the biggest thing I'm noticing here is consistency. Is even the one that I hit fat, I pulled it a little left, but I mean, those few shots I've hit with this have been almost on a dime of each other. It's nice. Wish I knew how to do this on the golf course.
Yeah. You do. You just get some Apexes.
You heard it, Callaway. I need a set of Apex Pros. Very cool. So we have the DCB left. So what's the biggest drastic difference between Apex and Apex DCB?
Yeah, so it's the DCB stands for the deep cavity.
Right.
And so you're getting thicker. They still have the tungsten there. It's a little bit less, so it's a lighter headed golf club.
Right.
Weight moved down. So I think your biggest difference, if you just look at from the Pro to that, is top lines
there's
are
quite
crazy.
a bit of difference. It's almost twice as thick.
Yeah, the soles are going to be a lot fatter. That's going to be for somebody who swings a little bit steeper at it. They need more interaction down there. The lead high on those things. It's
that actually didn't feel bad.
It's made for somebody that swings it steep, and that's most of your game improvement type stuff. You don't have a whole lot of really high handicappers that are really swinging shallow into the ball. Most of them are swinging over the top and kind of steep, and so that kind of, it's kind of what it's made for.
Yeah. So before BJ swings, we'd like to welcome in BJ.
Welcome. Back. It's been
brought in the Pro.
It's been a minute.
So real quick, what iron is in your hand right now?
I have no idea. No, it's a MP20 HMB.
So would you say that's the ideal club for you?
For right now, yeah.
For right now, yeah.
The one that's in
Like
his hand.
in this situation, like we said, bring a 7-iron in and you have one and therefore it's ideal.
Today I had one. No, it works.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not the greatest golfer, so it's actually helped with my dispersion.
Okay.
I still miss everything a little bit to the right, but that's my golf game.
Hit a few for us and let me get out of the way of the track, man. I hit the camera, I could use a new one.
Oh, I can do that.
So we're gonna look here. When we start looking at stuff, you know, kind of what
You have DCB in your hand?
what DCB is supposed to do is, BJ doesn't have a problem with launch or anything,
Nope.
but possibly we see the ball come off a little bit straighter. I don't know, maybe a little more forgiveness.
I mean, that's my miss right there.
That's the shot right there.
Well,
Little right drifter.
It's not really a miss if that's always your shot.
Depends on how you aim it, I guess.
So this one is going to be, compared to those two, this one's going to be more forgiving than that, help with launch, and I can promise you it's going to be lighter headed.
So real quick, what's your opinion of how it looks and just kind of your first take?
It looks a little bit more bulky than the HMB that I'm hitting right now. You know, like the profile right here looks a little bit thicker, but other than that, it looks good to me.
Okay. Let's hit it a few times, see what happens.
It actually feels a little bit heavier in the heel.
Really?
Is that normal?
Possibly. That's got like 20 grams, I think I said,
The
of like
club feels
tungsten.
lighter, but it just feels heavier in the heel. Huh. Yeah, that looks about right.
So how does it feel compared to your Mizuno?
I mean, that one felt pretty. I mean, I didn't hit it. I felt like I hit it a little bit more towards the heel.
On that one?
On that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we can tell.
I can tell.
Yeah, we can tell. Come on now. Get that up here.
Oh, that's tell you how I feel.
I hit it on the toe.
That one felt pretty good. Still gonna be out to the right though.
Pretty good right there.
I was about to say.
I can tell you from experience that I know that golf club is a little too upright for BJ.
Oh, I can definitely tell you.
You saying you're a few degrees flat in your initial setup?
Yeah, I guess
You should be.
Yeah, if it was more fit for my golf swing,
Right.
it'd be definitely one that I put in my bag.
So as far as look and feel though, now that you've hit it a few times, what is it? Give us your takeaway on that.
Yeah, I think it looks good. You know, the only thing for me is that just from hitting that H&B, the profile is a little bit thicker for me. It doesn't really throw me off, but I definitely can notice it. And then the feel, like I said, I think I feel the ball a little bit more
Okay.
than I do with the Mizuno. It just seems like the ball, I can feel it, even though I was off on where I thought I felt it, but I can definitely feel the ball strike a little bit more than I do with the H&B. So
Gotcha.
Cool.
Very cool.
Thanks for checking in here.
that's all I do.
You just bring him in. You bring in the big guns.
Thank you, sir.
Nailed it.
So, you know, across the line, we put out there kind of what it is, and like we're saying, the Pro is your plus to low handicap.
Right.
Your Apex is picking up where that Pro leaves off, or at the top line of stuff, somewhere at 5-6 up to like maybe like a 15, and then call your DCB, throw it that like 10 plus to the top.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, the goal of any company is to obviously, across their entire product line, not just one model line, is to encompass pretty much every golfer on the planet. Therefore, let's be honest, they want to sell every golfer on the planet a golf club.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So they're not going to handcuff themselves to one group of
in
individuals.
Callaway's situation, they moved down to like I don't know if it's still called the X Forge or not, but the CBMB line, which is their true Forge line.
Yeah.
And then on the high side, you'd move into the Big Bertha. So like and I do think that like the CB and potentially Apex Pro might cross over a little bit, some players, and you're just changing in look and feel there. Same thing where the DCB Apex and some of the Big Bertha stuff might cross over. Again, it just comes down to if you have a look, feel preference.
Yep.
When you get in those kind of crossover areas.
Yeah, and to throw a wrench into all of this, whenever we got the Pro in, you know, I had Ryder that works for us, and then Cade, old college Cade. They were both hitting them, and both of them across the board hit the Pro tighter and longer than they hit the other two. So don't let
Right. Yeah, it's a great
just
point.
because it says Pro. I mean, you may hit it better.
Right.
I mean, don't
Try it.
Don't
You never
kick it
know.
out.
I always tell people, listen, if you like the Apex, try one that's maybe a little easier to hit, try one that's a little harder to hit. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no harm in trying stuff out.
No.
Might learn something about yourself.
Apex, 3 clubs, full range of handicappers.
There it is. Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you all for checking in.
See you later.